Hello and welcome to another episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry, and I'm just stopping in here at the top of the episode to let you know that there were some audio issues here at the beginning of the recording session. I am not entirely sure what it was that happened, but it doesn't really affect your understanding of the conversation or anything that pertains to the episode. It was just kind of the intro stuff, so I think I'm going to go ahead and hop off here, let you get to the episode proper. I hope you enjoy it. I will talk to you later. My name is Perry, and this is my Bourbon Podcast. This is the core team here that is getting the Bourbon on the Banks Festival in Frankfort up and running. So I'm going to let everybody go around and introduce themselves first before we get started. So on the right...
My name is Matt Geyer. I'm with the Central Kentucky Spirit Society, and I also serve on the committee for Bourbon on the Banks. I serve on the judging committee and also the vendors committee.
Wendy Kobler. I am one of the founders of Bourbon on the Banks Festival, and I am reporting to an independent 501c3 called Bourbon on the Banks Festival Incorporated, and helping pull this event together for the good of Frankfort and Franklin County.
And Tim Niddle. I have a company called Distilled Living where I do bourbon education and consulting for a lot of folks, and I am assisting with the judging committee as well.
Now, you may remember Tim has actually been on the show.
Yeah,
before.
we talked cocktails last time.
We did, yeah. So I'm excited to talk just some straight bourbon. So, as we always do, we start the show off with Flying Blind, where I blind our guests with a pour. And, yeah, you guys don't know what it is.
No, but I can smell it from a foot away, so
Matt's already
it's got to
tried
be
it.
intense.
It's good.
I can taste the notes. I taste some caramel. Mm-hmm. I taste maybe a little butterscotch, and it's smooth. It's very smooth. So I'm going to say it's a single barrel.
I'm not going to give too much away just yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of floral on it, actually.
Yeah.
That nodding of your head was positive.
It was, indeed. Yes.
I get that floral as well, and also get bread, like rye, wheat. Almost like a cereal type bread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right, fair. Maybe a rye note.
I think the rye is fairly present in this. Not overly so to me, but I do enjoy it, though.
It's got some proof on it.
The palate, I get like almost an anise, maybe like a...
Oh, yeah,
I can see that.
No, like maybe a black licorice of some sort.
Mm-hmm. I could totally see that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Very good.
A lot going on with this. This is a nice complex.
I've got a black
one.
hole palate, guys. I really do. If you know my feet, I drink a lot of different things.
Yeah. So, Wendy said single barrel. Correct, indeed. But Tim said high proof.
I'm off.
It's a 90 proofer.
I'm thinking it's got some age to it as well.
If I remember correctly, this is about 8 or 9 years old. This was a Liquor Barn Buffalo Trace store pick.
Nice.
That I had the opportunity to help pick. And I don't know if you guys have ever been on Buffalo Trace picks before or not, but
Yep.
you know, they give you the bourbon at cask strength, and then you can decide whether or not to proof it down or anything. And it was funny because this at cask was not that good, and we proofed it down to 90, and it was spot on, ready to go. Everybody was like, yep, this has got to be it. We got to pick it.
Well, I appreciate you picking a Franklin County distillery.
Oh, I had to do
we
that.
should have known that right off the top. That should have been a dead giveaway.
Like, it was that or like Blanton's, and everybody has Blanton's all the time. So I figured do something a little different, right?
Yeah, this is fantastic. This is really nice. Thank you.
Some of the better barrel picks that I've had in recent years have been from Buffalo Trace. Mm-hmm. You get that classic caramel bomb, and you get that almost like a marshmallow type smell too on them.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the first notes I pulled out of this one.
I kind of am getting the marshmallow a little bit more on the palate than I am the nose with this one, personally. But I definitely see that as being present in there. So, anyway, that was Flying Blind. As we get things kicked off, I'd like to ask everybody, what have you been drinking recently? So, guys, what have you all been drinking recently?
So I spent the weekend actually in Bardstown and had some of Barton's. I particularly liked, of course, I'm going to go blank on the name, but there was one in particular that they tasted. But for the first time, I actually had the bourbon ball cream that they served.
Oh, really?
And their bourbon ball was different because as we went through the tour, the pecan was on the inside with a dark chocolate
Really?
bee stenciled or etched on the outside, and it was quite yummy. And then, of course, I drank. In fact, I sent a picture to the guys. This is sacrilegious, but I'm going to go out there anyway. I drank Black Saddle from California. That was
Really?
absolutely delicious. I sent the guys the picture of Black Saddle, and I said, "So what do you know about this?" No response.
She's a cork dork.
I've not heard that before. Cork dork.
It's actually an expression that I learned from in the IG community.
Fair enough.
Whiskey fella, Jeff Swartz up in Wisconsin.
Well, there you go.
That's what he calls his wife, a cork dork.
I'm going to take that with the most ultimate
No, he says
compliment.
it with affection. Absolutely. I mean, it's just that we're whiskey geeks and spirits geeks. But yeah, I mean, there's great wine out there, no doubt.
Black Saddle is bourbon, dear.
Oh, is it?
Yes, made in California.
Jokes on me. I didn't know of it.
Black Saddle. I sent a picture. I sent it out to you and Mike and
I didn't know
Tim.
It's a sourced. It's Franklin Distillers, if memory serves. Yeah.
I didn't know anything
There's a
about
dash in the name. Yeah.
It was yummy. And not from Kentucky, unfortunately. But, who knows? With the way the industry's going recently, it could soon be here.
Plenty of good stuff, not from Kentucky.
No, true. Well, let's see. Lunch, I was up in Shelby County doing some bourbon tourism work. So we were doing bullet cocktails, a little sour with a dash of bitters on top. That was fantastic.
That sounds awesome. Are you going to be at the bullet cocktail competition
No,
in a couple of weeks?
No, I'll have to miss it. Unless my schedule changes, we'll see.
So what is this now? Tell me.
They're hosting the world-class bartending competition at Bullet.
Oh, nice.
So,
when is that?
That is on June 10th. It's a Monday.
Excellent.
It's actually in Shelbyville.
Excellent. I think yours truly will be there.
I'm very excited.
I
So
am-
we'll reconvene up there.
Absolutely.
well.
And we can get an update and progress and how we're
Yes,
doing. Because, Bourbon on the Banks, we're excited to say that we have just hit 31 distilleries that will be present.
That's incredible.
And I've been taking a look at the competition, and I looked at Tim and Matt as the experts in this area because I am certainly not. But I'm looking to them as the experts, and I believe we are quickly approaching, and certainly when we hit our 40 distillery mark, we will surpass any bourbon festival that anyone seems to be aware of as far as quantity and quality of distilleries. You mentioned some that will be there. So Buffalo Trace was the first to come on board. They're going to be pouring not only the cream and the Wheatley vodka, but they're also going to be pouring Buffalo Trace, Eagles Rare, and then I've been talking with the representative, and it looks like they're going to pull the E.H. Taylor.
Well, fantastic.
Yes, and Blanton's is on board with us.
Good.
Heaven Hill will be
Rare.
there.
Eagle
And-
Rare?
Yes, so Eagle Rare from the Buffalo Trace collection, yes. And we've got a bunch of others that we're excited about.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be well worth the price of admission just when you're looking down the list. It's going to be fantastic. But we haven't really talked about what the event is yet.
No, not yet. And as I finish this piece of ice that's in my mouth,
He
we
wants to
gotta
know what
let
I'm drinking.
We gotta let Matt answer what he's been drinking too.
So, if anybody follows me, I'm big on the IG, and I go by the handle I Drink the World. And I drink a lot of scotch, so I've been drinking a lot of scotch lately. But as to bourbon, I know. As to bourbon,
We won't hold it against you.
I've been enjoying the Willet distillate, the old Bardstown Bottle and Bond. It's a great pour.
That's
I
fantastic.
get it for $16, $17, $18. I think it's the new Heaven Hill 6-year-old, or it's the new Henry McKenna 10-year-old. But people should seek that out. It's really good.
Right.
I think it's well balanced. It's, I don't know, probably a 4 to 5 year blend tops, but it's Bottle and Bond. I like it.
It's a big recommendation for people to pick up when they're in Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely, because I think it's geographically challenged, is it not?
It is indeed. It is indeed. But I don't think I've really been drinking too much that interesting recently. I just came out with an episode from our local bourbon group, Kentucky Supply and Demand. We recorded that at Jake's Cigar Bar, and after we got done, actually, you know what? I take that back. I did get to try something really fantastic. 1970 IW Harper.
Oh. Are the decanters that large?
I would assume so, but Dexter, who was on the show, brought a little sample bottle of it. And
yeah, the pre-Asian juice is great, man.
Yeah.
It really is. I was fortunate enough to be at the 2014 re-release when they brought it back. It was it spent probably 20 years in strictly in Asian markets, and but when they brought it back, Diageo, I thought it was good. I mean, I wasn't terribly doing cartwheels over it, but I thought it was a very good product.
Yeah, I think that's what everybody kind of seems to say about IW Harper now is that
it's not the old 70s,
right.
60s juice.
It's good, but not great.
No.
So what were you doing that you got the opportunity to taste such a unique and special?
Having friends on my podcast.
There you go.
That's why he has
To be in the know.
That's why I have the podcast. Yeah, apparently. I get to meet great people and share great pours and everything, but yeah. Figured I'd pour something else too as we begin to talk about the Bourbon on the Banks festival. Pre-fire Heaven Hill.
Wow.
Oh my Lord!
4-year-old 90 proof.
You are the man.
Heaven Hill is in, by the way.
It is.
They're going to be in the festival.
Good.
They're not pouring that,
Well,
but that's all right. They've got plenty of other things in their portfolio.
They might have an option or two. Maybe something that's one.
so I'll pass that around for pours and
This is
everything.
some dusty here, baby.
Yeah.
I just moved I'm not from here. I'm from West Virginia, and I'm a transplant. Married a local, went to the University of Louisville, graduated there, but I distinctly remember this. This is, this was awful. I mean, I wasn't like I was a bourbon drinker, but, not like, like we are today, these
Sure.
aficionados and whatnot. But this was just terrible. And what was great was just how the community came together to help them.
Absolutely.
I mean, my Lord.
So this is, I
Fantastic.
believe, 1994. So just a couple years before the fire.
Well, I just want you to know, Matt was busy speaking. I was busy gulping, so I can make room in my glass.
Take your time. I pour quick and I pour a lot. So
You've never heard of the Perry pour?
No.
it's on my Glencairn.
Oh,
Have you seen it
nice,
yet?
nice.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The Perry 4.
Yes.
You selling those?
I was
Not
you need
yet,
to brand
but,
that.
But that will be in the future. More on that eventually. Anyway, yeah. So let's talk about Bourbon on the Banks. Where did this idea begin? What was the inception behind Bourbon on the Banks?
Being in Frankfort, and I am now coming up and soon to be celebrating my 1-year anniversary in the Great Commonwealth. And I will say this about Kentucky overall. It truly is a best kept secret. I had no idea it was such a beautiful state with the rolling hills, the horses, the bourbon industry, which I knew about but had no idea about. In addition to that, as some people shared with me, we casually or graciously do all the sins in Kentucky and have a good time doing it. And so I'm thrilled to be part of the community. So as I was looking around the community and trying to see ways that I could personally help and impact the community, because I believe grow where you're planted. So I live in Frankfort. I actually live downtown Frankfort. I live above the old T-boat marina, right on Main Street, West Main. And I'm next door to Bourbon on Main. So I'm going to throw a hey out to my friends that all gather at Bourbon on Main with a great bourbon collection. In addition to that, Goodwood is moving into the hood. So Goodwood will actually be below me. So they're bringing an extended menu as well as their wonderful bourbon barrel beers and crafts. In addition to that, their new bourbon will be all housed underneath me with this beautiful deck. And we will both share our love of the Kentucky River as we look out the back porch. But so in doing this and coming together, and in my day job, I work at Kentucky State University, and I'm a fundraiser. I wanted to work to bring the community and Kentucky State closer together, but at the same time raise scholarship dollars to help students at Kentucky State. The reason that is, a lot of people will talk about national crisis or things going on. Well, I believe this student debt is truly important. You mentioned a little earlier before we got on that, you're an EKU grad, and so many of our students are graduating with a lot of debt. And we need to, and my role in this world is to raise scholarship dollars to help those students so that way they
God bless
graduate
you.
with less debt. And
God bless you.
Now, I still believe you have to have skin in the game, but I don't believe you should come out of with a college education having to make a house payment and have no house.
Sure.
And so I think it's important that we support our students. So that's how this idea evolved. I literally interviewed over 200 people and said, what are we doing? And how can I meet you? How can I talk to you? This is what my role is. This is what I'm doing. I think there's a great opportunity. The community is welcoming. It's friendly. It's got a lot of hospitality. And we do some smaller bourbon events, but there was nothing that could be built to what I call a national scale. So as I interviewed all these folks, I got to meet Tim, I got to meet Matt, pitching the different ideas. So it took us 6 months of research, built it out. So this will be a history festival. This will talk about the economic development of it. This is also going to be the first ever bourbon judging competition in the Commonwealth. And I'd love to tell you that was my idea, but that idea was not my idea. Charlie Jones, he's president of the Frankfort Bourbon Society, actually gave me that idea. In addition to that, we have nearly 200 Japanese-owned companies in the Commonwealth. They are huge contributors to our community. We're going to celebrate that contribution, what it is that they mean to us. Also, Perry, you probably know this already, they own about 50% or more of the bourbon market.
They do indeed, yes.
And so we want to bring them together. We want to get to know them. We want to thank them for what they're doing, how they're contributing, and have a good time doing it. So August 24th is going to be the Saturday that you cannot miss. We're going to gather. We're going to have a lot of distilleries, more than 31, but 31 right now. We're also going to bring together some breweries and some wineries.
Fantastic.
Because those are also important industries in our state. But Bourbon on the Banks, of course, is going to be all about the bourbon. We're also going to have food. We're going to have music and entertainment. And then I wouldn't be fair if I didn't say we're going to be responsible. So everywhere I feel I need to go when I talk about it, I want to talk about that responsibility. So you have to be 21 and up. Can't even go buy a ticket for the event unless you're 21 and up.
So Wendy brought up, too, that you guys had been interviewed to be a part of this.
Well,
What was your sales pitch, I guess?
It wasn't a sales pitch. It was just a conversation.
Okay.
I first met Wendy. Actually, it's a funny story. I met her at Bourbon on Main in late October, early November. And I literally just came from a barrel pick at Strong Spirits, and we were buying we were trying to purchase a rye barrel, and I'd been tasting very, very high proof whiskey, and I honestly was not in a position to talk with you, but I did. So, and I guess it went well because she actually took my number and we exchanged contact information, and then
I wasn't interviewing, I was recruiting.
And then I did not hear from her until early January. And then January she reached out and we started to have a conversation about what this festival is going to be about, what's the vision is, and I try to envision it almost like you mentioned before we came on. If I was going to attend the Southern Whiskey Society's event in August down in Nashville. And this is going to be very similar to that in regards, but outside, where if you've ever attended a Whiskey Live. Where you'll have stations to where you'll have particular spirits being served, or wine or beer. But you'll also have tents that are also serving food, or also highlighting. We might have vendors that are highlighting things that for the that represent Kentucky.
Right.
So, and that was our vision. We wanted things to stay local, to have a Kentucky theme, but also somehow help Kentucky State University, which this is ultimately about, raising scholarship money, also highlighting their new fermentation and distillation program.
Certification program that
So
I'm so
cool.
glad you covered.
Oh yeah,
So cool.
I mean that is cool. I mean, obviously Tim can even speak more to that because he represents a different college, but he also is a part of that world, and it's fantastic because all of us who grew up here. I mean, I grew up in West Virginia, but I know the climate.
Very close.
I've been coming to Louisville since the late '70s, and these bourbon distilleries, before the last 10, 15 years, they were factories. I mean, they weren't campuses that they are today. Where you come and and visit the distillery. Obviously, great dining facilities. They partner with farm to table movement, the slow food movement. So anyway, I've always been attracted to that. I talked about those things with Wendy, and she was so I was like, exactly, this is how we need to do it. And we've built it slowly, but we've also built it quickly. I mean, yesterday was January, it seems like. And, we've done so much in the last 4.5 months. It's crazy. We've been texting each other every day. We talk to each other every day. We're always, keeping each other in the loop of what we're doing, who we're contacting, reaching out to distilleries, or I'm reaching out to restaurants. One of the things that Wendy tasked me with early was to try to find a super chef to spearhead we have a wonderful event on Thursday night. It's a farm-to-table event at the Aqua Farm out there at Kentucky State University. And she wanted to have, kind of one of the super chefs. I mean, Louisville's become this incredible foodie town, and I've even had this conversation with Tim. Lexington's starting to change as well. You're all starting to become
we're getting there.
Exactly. You're getting there. And
Thank goodness.
so after, getting into rooms, talking with these chefs, pitching our ideas with them, we finally were able to get a really wonderful chef. We were the owner of Volaire in Louisville, Kentucky, Joshua Moore, who's also a winner of Chopped.
Oh, wow.
Food Network.
Yeah.
He's going to spearhead our event that night. He's going to prepare appetizers, and he'll also do the meal, and he's going to pair that with cocktails, obviously, and spirits, with our native Kentucky spirit bourbon. So, and we'll probably, there'll be a theme to that, I'm sure, but we'll leave that in Josh's hands. So.
I can tell you short ribs. Kentucky State's donating about 100 pounds of shrimp. This dinner's going to target about 250 people, and I already know Josh plans on doing, again, all Kentucky themes, some stone ground grits from that good Kentucky corn. So it's good for more than cereal and other things. It's good for us. So, but then I actually came to a class that Tim was teaching.
Yeah, it was Saturday morning. We were doing a private bourbon education session for the Kentucky Black Bourbon Guild, which if you're a member of that organization, you get those for free once every month. And so Wendy comes in, and by 5 minutes later, I think about half the group is ready to buy tickets for Bourbon on the Banks. We knew very little about it, but we're very excited by her energy and what she was talking about. And she said, "You know about bourbon?" And she said, "I don't know that much about bourbon. Let's talk later." So that's how we got started.
Absolutely.
I'm like, Tim, you know everything about bourbon, and Matt knows everything, and I need all the help I can get. I said,
I don't know anything about, what was it, Saddlebrook?
Black Saddle.
Black Saddle, thank you. See, I've even confused
Saddlebrook's
my
a
mind.
farm, isn't it?
I conflated that. Yeah, exactly.
Tim would tell you there's 2,000 distilleries of all kinds.
How many are sourcing bourbon with non-distilled?
That's a great question. I don't know. I keep a spreadsheet. I got to look it up.
But this event is really come together. The city of Frankfort's behind it. The county, Franklin County's behind it. Frankfort Plant Board is throwing resources at us, services at us. Community Trust Bank is our title sponsor. Wow. Deloitte is our Thursday night dinner sponsor.
Kroger.
Home 2 by Hilton is our premier hotel sponsor. Kroger is our premier food sponsor. Just had a couple more sponsors sign up today. We are right at $120,000 raised.
That is fantastic.
To put on this event.
And what was the goal, Wendy, if I recall correctly? 100,000 in January?
Originally, it was 85,000.
85,000.
Wow.
And then we realized with the new event, we need really a lot more money in marketing. And so we're pumping $45,000 into marketing. And that's everything from website development to social media outreach to getting in front of the tourism market in our communities and in the statewide. We're doing geo-mapping. I mean, all types of things to drive ticket sales, because the proceeds from the ticket sales are what's going to support the scholarships.
Right. Yeah, I would like to really, I'm impressed myself with Kroger, my Lord. I mean, that's huge. They're going to promote not only our festival, but they're also going to sell our tickets, I believe, between Asheville to St. Louis to Indianapolis to Nashville. So we're very happy about that.
That's incredible. Yeah. Hey, the Seven Hills pretty good.
It's damn good, man.
Oh,
I'm getting some incredible.
I'm trying to figure out how
nutmeg
to
and-
leap over and get it off the ledge. I think he's hiding it.
It's like grilled peaches. It's got the
Grilled
beautiful-
peaches.
I haven't had a Dusty in a while. I mean, something this old in the bourbon world. I've been spending a lot of time in the Scotch and Irish world, and but this is really good. This is different because it's not what you're getting on the market right now.
What is the market like for dusty scotches or dusty Irish whiskeys?
I wouldn't say. I just drank a pre Tullamore Dew. This is like pre 1994. Or excuse me, 1954 whiskey that was made at the old distillery.
It's a big difference.
Yes, it was huge. And this was a 36-year-old Irish whiskey that had been finished in sherry. It was a Napo Castle, and but what made that interesting? It was that there was a distillery that no longer existed anymore, and that was probably one of the oldest that I've had in that world. But I don't really drink a lot of bourbon dusties, but this is very good. This doesn't taste like what's the normal bourbon that's on the
Definitely
market.
doesn't.
So.
Yeah, there's a richness to it that you get with those.
Well,
just even that little bit older.
I'm looking at this Russell's here.
27 years older.
Yeah, I'm looking at this Russell's. Sometimes I get that kind of dusty type smell on a wild turkey Russell's. But this is fantastic. Thank you, Perry.
Absolutely.
This is yummy. Is that a flavor?
Yes. I will accept it at the very least.
We talked a little bit and introduced the concept of judging. I'm going to ask Tim to talk a little bit about judging.
Yeah, please do.
So like Matt, we're just kind of helping with the pieces of it. But we've got actual co-chairs on the judging committee that are putting that together. But we're doing it as industry standard, right? It's going to be double blind. The judges will not know anything more than they want to know. We'll have a little bit of descriptors just so that they understand category. If it's a bourbon finish, they'll recognize that. And then it's a meddling system, and all of that is public in terms of how it's being handled. So it's very much we want it recognized as an international caliber judging competition, meeting all the requirements to have that classification.
Who are some of the judges that are going to be present for it?
Well, we have.
Is that a question I can ask yet?
Oh yeah, they're already public. They're posted online.
I saw Tim's face when I asked that question. Like, oh, we're not supposed
I'm
to
just
tell.
been keeping quiet about it.
Go
But
ahead.
I haven't sent out a press release or anything yet.
Tim is a judge.
Oh,
Yes.
great.
Yeah, I'll be one of the judges.
Yes, Michael Beach is a judge.
Love
Tom
Michael.
Fisher is a judge.
Yeah.
My bourbon blog.
Bourbon Blog.
Yeah.
Andrea Merriweather at the Louisville Market is a judge.
Andrea.
Yes. Ariel Neal is coming down from Chicago.
Okay.
She is a judge. I'm going off the top of my head. I'm hoping Matt
I'm looking it
is
up.
pulling it up. We've
Kenny
got-
Androsny. He's the owner of Commonwealth Tap. He's also a second-level wine sommelier, but he also has a deep, deep love for spirits and knows
great.
his shit. Sorry.
Look, man, if you heard last week's episode, or really
Yes.
today's episode, I mean, that's
Kenny knows
nothing.
his stuff. So.
Good.
We got a couple gentlemen. Unfortunately, I can't think of their names off the top of my head. Coming in from Colorado, professional spirits judges. We also have a woman's professional spirits judge that's coming down from St. Paul, Minnesota.
That's great.
So again, like most things are in Kentucky, most of our judges are coming from Kentucky.
Right.
But we are bringing in outside expertise to help us round out the panel.
Yeah, we have two gentlemen coming out from Denver. We have Larry Wilcox, and we also have what is his name? I want to say Matthew Wyatt. So both of them have extensive judging competition experience. They're both certified, either through the Society of the Society of Wine Educators. They're either through there or the sommelier system, whether it be the Whiskey Academy or wine sommeliers. So, but yeah, you can go to our website. Their resumes are online. They're impressive. I'm impressed.
Yeah, you can read all about it. The entry form's online, how it is that you submit. But what's really unique about this is there's no charge to submit your bourbon.
Wow.
And there's no charge as a vendor if you're giving away your product to participate.
And then Carly Carlton, the Bourbon Babe, she's one of our
Oh, wow.
judges as well.
Yeah.
Carly's one of our judges.
She's awesome.
And then Brandon Lynn Tabor, she is Women in Whiskey.
Yes.
LLC,
Yeah.
so.
While we're kind of on the topic, too, of bourbon being more than just a Kentucky thing, why was that important to you to reach out past Kentucky to make this more of a national and even really now international aspect of Bourbon on the Banks?
Diversity and inclusion.
Love that.
That's extremely important. This is a very diverse panel. We have at least 4 women, because we have 11 judges, 4 women, 2 of which are African American.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ariel Neal out of Chicago.
Yes.
She's the cocktail lady.
Yes.
So-
Lara No Spirits, causing a stir.
She is actually going to be heading up our after event. She'll be the cocktail specialist,
Oh,
mixologist.
there's an after party.
So
Oh,
we're
yes.
yeah, we have an official after party.
It's going to be epic, dude.
Bourbon on Main, the Frankfort Bourbon Society, and our friends at Goodwood are throwing the official after party, and Ariel will be our official
Mixologist.
celebrity mixologist.
Awesome.
Designing a bourbon on the bank. But more important than that, she's actually going to do some bartender training. She's going to talk about the career aspect. She's going to talk about responsibility. She's going to talk about the role that our bartenders play. And so we are very pumped up about that. But diversity was important. But diversity, while we all recognize race and gender as diversity, geography
Absolutely.
is also important. It's age, geography, experience, what it is that you bring to the table.
I'll actually speak to that, but from a really weird perspective. I want to speak at it from the perspective of geography as in terroir.
I was still holding on to the weird part.
Well, terroir. You all, understand the term. It's in the culinary and the industry. It's, you pick up the taste of where the land of where things were produced and so forth. Here in Kentucky, we, the bourbon is, I get a lot of cinnamon. I get a lot of oak. I get a lot of vanilla. I get a lot of caramel. But I also taste that in our water to some degree. Does that kind of, in that limestone water that we
Minerality,
have?
yeah.
I can
Yes.
see that.
It's in
Yeah.
it's in everything that we drink. So sometimes I don't pick up as great a nuances in the bourbons that someone from maybe California, someone from Europe might pick up. But boy, when I drink other spirits that are outside my geographical region, I do pick up these nuances really well.
So it'd be good to have people come in from outside of our geographic
Oh,
region.
absolutely.
It's a reference
Absolutely.
you're making.
So,
Yeah, Kentucky makes 95% of the bourbon, right?
Right.
That's the stat that we keep throwing around. We'll probably always make 95% of the bourbon. Even when there's 2,000 distilleries open across the United States, which we're quickly getting to, and even if most of them make bourbon, that's fine. The world's big enough for all those bourbons. They're all
Right.
going to be interesting and unique and probably all small production.
They are.
And so we're happy to embrace that. We'll still always, Kentucky bourbon will be something special always.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we need to feel threatened by people outside our state. We can embrace them. The industry is big enough for that.
and I was just going to say I've had really good bourbon that's not made here in Kentucky. And I'm not referring to MGP.
I will.
Well, I mean, they got
Who's that?
makes great
Who's
whiskey.
coming?
right up.
Yeah, but everyone thinks you're going to go there, which
Who's
is true.
coming
They
to the
they
event, by the
they
way?
make incredible,
That's awesome.
incredible stuff. They do it quite well. I mean, it's like it's the science that they have down. But somewhere like Breckenridge Distillery out in Colorado, I think they make great juice. I've had some really good experiences with theirs. The Powder Hound, it's their batch 1. It's their oldest blends of bourbon that they were able to put together, their oldest stocks, and create this wonderful blend. It's delicious. I haven't had any of their earlier batches, but their port finish, their batch 4, I thought was fantastic. I've had that. So I am finding small craft bourbons and small craft distilleries producing really good stuff. So,
What I was going to get to as well is that it's important to note that bourbon, regardless of geography or background or anything, it's not an exclusionary thing.
Mm-mm.
I mean, we talk about it all the time, that bourbon's a community. It's a way for us to come together and share something that we all really love, which eventually will lead to more memories being made. And, it all seems to come back to bourbon. So I'm looking forward to the memories that we're going to be making at Bourbon on the Banks, for sure. And,
oh, no
and-
doubt. I mean, to be this inaugural judging contest, it's
Yeah.
never happened before. I mean, I used to say, well, the reason why they don't have it, it's politics, or the big boys don't want to have, a contest. Everything's very congenial at the Bardstown Bourbon Festival, and everything's very congenial at the Bourbon Classic, and
Right.
and the Bourbon Affair, etc. And it should be. I mean, they shouldn't be competitors. They each make great juice, and and their unique approaches and so forth are very different from each other, and they can be proud of what they make. They don't have to,
Right.
even if they are, they do compete at other places outside. I mean, San Francisco, Denver, New Orleans, but never here in the state of Kentucky. And I don't know why, but we're going to be the first to attempt this. So.
The tourism dollars. I look at it from economics. So all my degrees are in business.
Sure.
And so I look at it from the economic, the drive for tourism. Why wouldn't you want to compete in Kentucky?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to raise the profile of this state that we all live in, that we love?
And that's the crazy thing. I mean, $8 billion are now what the bourbon industry are producing just from the tourism perspective. It's crazy. I mean, 1.5 million people are coming to the state of Kentucky to see distilleries and experience everything else with it. The synergy of the culinary and the food, what am I looking for? The horse parks, the Civil War industry. I was having a conversation with the owners of Bourbon Manor down in Bardstown, and a lot of people come not only for the bourbon, but they also come for the food, the festivals, but they also come for the the history and stuff of Kentucky. I mean, we have a deep history here.
Let's ping off history. Tim, touch on the history. What are we doing different?
So this is something that I'm really excited about. This is something that I've been working on with several other groups, but this is really being spearheaded by the Kentucky Black Bourbon Guild, and I wish we had a representative from them here. But one of the things that we're trying to do is find the dollars to help with the research to really explore the African American side of the distilling industry in the United States.
Yes.
It's a story that hasn't been told well. We're starting to see that change with brands like Uncle Nearest, but that's a big piece of what we're doing here is correcting that story. Bourbon is inclusive now. That's the way it is. So the history needs to be inclusive as well. It needs to be accurate. We're going to really focus on that as a component of this event.
And touching on Uncle Nearest as well, I mean, not only are I'm looking at one of their stickers. Not only are they drawing from that history to incorporate diversity into their brand, into their product, but they're being spearheaded by Fawn Weaver, who is one of the leading females in the whiskey industry. And she is doing such great things to bring all aspects of that diversity to the table and doing it very well, too. Fawn's been on the show before. I've gotten to meet her and chat with her, and I'm just blown away by everything that she is accomplishing right now with that brand.
They will be represented.
Great.
They will be present.
Great.
Yeah, they're already on board.
They were one of the first on board. I had the privilege of attending. There's a plethora of incredible bourbon events. I had the privilege of attending about a month or two ago. Tim was there, a few others. We went to the Bourbon Classic.
Oh, great.
Blown away.
Yeah.
What a great event. There's so much going on in the Commonwealth to drive tourism, to bring more people here to celebrate that sense of community that you were talking about. Of course, it's important we're differentiating our festival, so Bourbon on the Banks, the history, the awards, the education aspect, being in Frankfort, downtown, on the river. It is an outdoor festival. And by the way, August is the driest month of the year, and I've taken care of all that. So no worries. And we're going to have a good time, and we're going to celebrate community. We're going to celebrate ag. We're going to celebrate the new fermentation distillation program at Kentucky State University.
Fantastic.
And we can be prouder of what we're doing and how we are going to have our little impact on what this exciting industry is doing for the state.
Matt, you brought something into my house.
I did.
Which sounds like it was negative, but
Well, we don't know yet.
Undecided.
I've never seen this before in my life until about 45 minutes ago. About an hour ago. I wouldn't say it's all the rage, but we're starting to see a lot of finished bourbons, come on the market. They're kind of taking this page from the Scotch boys. It is. It's good wood. They have the barrel stout finish, and I believe this here is different. This is a competitor. This is called New Holland, or excuse me, it's distilled by New Holland. It's called Beer Barrel Bourbon.
And to be clear, New Holland is not yet a participant, but if you're listening, New Holland,
We would love to have you.
check
You're
out the
invited.
website.
You're invited.
Send us a note.
Bourbononthebanks.org. All one word, bourbononthebanks.org. You can reach any of us through that. We're still looking for vendors. We're still looking for those last distilleries to sign up. In fact, I had Boone County emailed me the other day and says
I love
it's too
Boone
late.
County.
And I said, no, not too late. Come on board. And we have room for you. And we're providing tables, tents. We're providing tablecloths. The only thing we ask you to bring is your product, the little cup to pour into, and some marketing materials so you can best promote your brand and what it is you're doing. Couldn't be more excited. But I think Matt's hogging the bottle. He obviously wants to take it all home with him.
Well, it's
Well, two of the
I don't
three
know
of
what
us have
this
gotten
is.
it so far.
I
It just
know,
hasn't
I know,
made it
waiting,
around the table.
waiting.
it's bourbon whiskey finished in oak beer barrels. So I've never had this before. I just grabbed it.
I'm not much of a beer drinker. I mean, I like beer. I know a couple of different categories and styles of beer. I have no idea what this tastes like. It's the beer is
I can smell it.
doing something more than the bourbon is.
It's dominating you because I mean, you taste it. I don't really taste bourbon all that much.
It's grapefruit. That's the top note.
But, you know, what was,
grapefruit and tangerine?
Other
I'd say
than
citrus. Citrus for sure.
Goodwood's stout barrel finished whiskey, their bourbon, and then New Riff is also putting out an oat stout finish, I believe, barrel.
That'd be fun when it comes
I'm
out.
going to have to talk to my friend Perry about the little green bottle hidden on the shelf over there.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Going back
better.
to that one.
Perry,
that's
I don't
whiskey.
want to say anything if they want to be a part of this. I'm gonna try to be quiet.
I'm not sure what this is.
Well, I don't know what
idea.
this is either.
I
But
just thought it was gimmicky.
it's if I was a craft distiller, I would want to participate just simply to get the feedback out of Kentucky. You know, if you're going to be going up against big names and small names and all sorts of people, you know, I'd want to have my product in there to be double blind. We'll have no idea what it is, and to get that kind of honest feedback is invaluable.
let's talk about some of our craft distillers. MB Roland, the
Oh, I know.
Neely
I'm-
family distilleries coming. Peerless is coming.
Paul's
Rabbit
got a
Hole's
great
coming.
product down there.
Peerless is, I just saw
Yeah, they
June
had their bourbon.
22nd. Their new bourbon will be out.
That's
The Rise just
very exciting.
kicking it up.
Jeff
But their
the Creed.
bourbon.
Yeah.
Jeff the Creed's
They just
coming.
Bloody
released
Butcher.
their,
Yeah, James E. Pepper is coming.
Yes,
Very
yes,
excited to have them.
We have New Riff,
Great.
yes,
Boone County.
yes.
Great. Wilderness Trail yet?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Oh, yes.
They were in
I
early.
think they were
They
number
were in
2
early.
to sign up.
Number two. They lined up at number
Glens
two.
Creek.
I had
Glens
to ask
Creek,
if Wilderness
another.
Trail was going to be there, though.
Glens Creek.
There's 31, and none of us have our phone out to look through all of them that are
I
on that
know.
list.
I'm pretty good with the memory. But we have a few distilleries that are coming. They don't have their distillate ready yet, but we're excited they're going to be
Yes.
there because they, you know,
Castle and Key was
Kinda-
on early.
Castle and
Their
Key,
support
we want
of
their
us has
support.
been phenomenal. Casey Jones, just came
absolutely.
on, and so super excited about them.
We have Holy Gin.
Yes, so two
You know, they're-
Louisville-based distilleries, Holy Gin and Copper and King,
I was about to
making
ask
a
about Copper and
brandy. They're both coming, and they are
Absolutely.
thrilled that we said yes. And I said, absolutely. Are you Kentucky? They said, yes, we are. Is
absolutely.
Kentucky in your name? They said, yes, it is. I said, then come on.
So the competition is limited to bourbons and bourbon finished, but the festival is open. It's going to be a heavy bourbon focus. There's a lot of people super excited about that category, but that's not the only category out there. So there's going to be a lot of other things to sample and get excited about.
Well, when you sent me the text that MGP was on board, I was like, man, the KDA is going to run you out of town.
I haven't
We're
gotten
the
an
Scotch
Instagram yet.
distillery here.
Yeah. Hey, well, you know what? If
I
they
might.
want to,
Listen,
we'll see.
Matt, I was working on another invitation from Perry. Don't kill it.
Yeah, I keep going back to that same sample, and I keep thinking, if I didn't have the word bourbon associated with it, I'd probably be more interested in it. But I'm bringing so much expectation onto this
The
product.
bourbon's buried in this.
And it is totally buried. And if it had just said whiskey, or if this had said so light, or this said, given me some expectation. I don't know. I think I would be much more receptive to it, but it's so far outside of category and outside of expectation that I'm having to think about whether or not I like it.
Wendy really wanted that have
I'm
it
gonna have
pre-fired.
to.
Oh yeah.
I even had other things lined up for us to try too.
I know.
I brought some representatives of our
Did you?
participating distilleries as well.
Tim, what did you bring?
Stuff that
Hate me,
you
but
have.
I do
know-
have a car
or
full of
unless
scotch in
you've
the
consumed it all. But let me reach into the box here.
Oh, my
God.
goodness.
It's the party pack.
Where does one even find those party packs?
well-
I need to do more shopping.
Perry's got one of these too, but it might
it's
be
up on my
empty.
shelf.
But so this is the Heaven Hill Distillery American Whiskey Tasting Experience, because Heaven Hill is definitely going to be there participating. So we've got Bernheim, Larceny, Evan Williams, Elijah Craig, and Pikesville, all of which are excellent whiskeys. A whole lot of respective categories there, so we can break into all of those at any point. We're still sticking with bourbon, so
Yeah, I may as well stick with bourbon.
how about... we haven't had a weeded yet, so how about some Larceny?
I was hoping you were going to say Larceny.
I love
I
Larceny.
really was. I actually looked at my bottle of Larceny and I thought, I'll break that out. And then I was like, nah, they've all had Larceny plenty of times. But I'm excited that this is where this went.
This is, I was glad to get this kit when we were up doing the dinner with Connor O'Driscoll
God.
a little while ago.
This is changing. There's almost like chocolate notes.
Oh, he's not on the Larceny.
No.
For all the listeners at home.
This is the Heaven Hills.
Clarifying.
This is what happens is you come over to my house and you know, if you're going to be doing a podcast with me, you're going to be drinking bourbon. So
That's why people come over.
Yeah, exactly.
So Larceny is one that I stopped buying because I just reach for it so readily. I was just like, wait, didn't I buy that yesterday? Now
That's
it's
a great
empty?
price point still.
It is.
$20.
It's wonderful.
under
wonderful
25,
stuff.
I think. I think it's $22.99.
You know, the thing with this festival, I said the number one thing we had to do was have fun. And
Yeah, we
this
have.
is,
We've had a
this
blast.
is, we are having fun.
I mean,
you know what?
Again, this is what happens. You come over and we just have a good time. That's what it's all about. And talk
this-
about good things.
This bourbon is so good.
I love the nose on this.
I know this is polarizing. I've talked to a lot of people, but some people are polarized into wheat versus rye camps and things like that. But I just
So
think,
what's your polar favorite, Tim?
oh, I love. There's so many bourbons that I love. I don't.
yeah, there's a lot.
Occasionally, there's a really high rye will be a little bit too spicy or a little bit too herbaceous for me, but there's a whole spectrum of great bourbons.
So I got to talk about Tim for a second.
Okay, go for
So
it.
in December, I held a little Christmas party, and Tim gave me this box that I opened up, and it was one of those things. He said, "Hold for 6 months, then you can enjoy." Well, 6 months is quickly approaching, and I cannot believe it has literally.
So
Here.
So it was like it was a sample box. I went to my closet and just in my cabinet and just pulled out a whole lot, filled up a bunch of mini bottles. So the idea is, once Wendy had been here long enough to appreciate it, and understand them all, then she's ready.
I'm so excited.
It's time.
It
It's
is time. It
isn't
is
it?
time.
Larceny, for a 94 proof wheated bourbon, has a lot more depth and a lot. It almost doesn't drink like it's wheated.
It drinks. I mean, I wouldn't even impose a category
Sure.
in either direction
Sure.
on it, because it does have that depth. My understanding of it from looking at it and talking to a few people is that it's mostly skewed on the younger side, 5.6s, but they're throwing in older barrels to give it structure. And it's that combination across years, across the better part of a decade, that's just really rounding it out and giving it a complexity that you don't find in, like a bottled and bond product that has to be limited to 1 year. A bottled bond can still be great, still be beautiful, but it's not quite going to have the depth and richness that this has.
I just love it. It's so good. It's
Does
one
this
of those
qualify
where
for that tasting profile? Yummy.
yes, it absolutely
Oh, this
does.
is so yummy. Oh, all right.
This
When I
is
built my
Wendy's ready for it. Here we
Yes,
go.
yes. Wendy's
for
ready.
my for my test flight for the the Thief and Stave Society, or the Stave and Thief Society. That's what I did. I did the Larceny. I did the special, the Weller Special Reserve, and I did the Maker's Mark. I did all wheated
Oh,
bourbons.
yeah. That's a great flight.
So
walk that across by proof. And
I did. I mean, I highlighted the different approaches that they take through their mash bills. And, but yeah, it's sad, man, about Weller's, man. I mean, for all of us that lived around here, for the first part of this decade, you just walk down the store, grab a bottle, no problem.
So it goes from readily available, then you can't find it, and now you can't find it, but it's more expensive.
I know, it's crazy.
107's $50 now. For a 750.
Oh my Lord.
And it was what, $25? Maybe?
Just 2015? Yeah. Easy.
Yeah. And now it's double that. It's just ridiculous.
bourbon's weird.
Bourbon is weird.
The whole industry.
So many people
is
say
weird.
that. But yes,
quite
bourbon is
honestly,
weird.
I do kind of secretly applaud it. I was like, that's great that it's getting this price. Because, I mean, compared to Scotch or compared to some Japanese whiskeys and so forth, it's not really all that expensive. It's a value whiskey in a lot of ways.
To that point, would you have rather have seen Heaven Hill 6-year bottled and bond double in price, or just gone the way of the dodo like it has?
I don't know. I'd like to have seen them probably double in price and maybe more geographically challenged. It's just sold here in the States. Or, excuse me, in the state.
The 6-year bottled and bond was only sold in Kentucky.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So,
And yet, there wasn't enough of it. And Heaven Hill has 1.5 million barrels out there. And
Just ask Bernie Lubbers.
I read today that the amount of bourbon in the state is at a 30-year high.
Yep.
Wow.
oh, it is, yeah. I mean,
And
there's more
growing
barrels
fast.
of bourbon maturing in these rick houses than there are people.
I think we're rapidly approaching 2-1.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great. What a time to be alive.
Men, women, and children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to be safe. Gotta have enough.
Don't
For
mention the
future
P word.
generations.
That time that came about when it took out a bunch of our brothers and sisters in the industry and
well, I mean,
the
P
prohibition.
word.
The prohibition.
I thought you said B word. I was
P prohibition.
P, what B word are we looking at with?
we're so lucky to live here. I mean, we're able to find all these great values. We don't have to chase bourbon. You don't have to worry about, the headaches of allocation. We're fortunate enough, to be able to find decent priced bourbon on the shelf and not pay an arm and a leg for it.
Yeah.
But it is getting, in some places, out of hand. Certain things are.
If you want to go that direction, bourbon will open its arms to you. If you want to spend $100, $200, $2,000 a bottle, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Bourbon is there for you. If you want to live under $25 for
And
the
there's
rest
a
of your
world for it.
life
Absolutely.
and drink good bourbon, absolutely.
You can. You can be this guy who's oblivious to all these things, and goes and buys, something like Larceny. It's under $25. I think you can even get it under 20 if you went to the big box, the Antichrist of liquor stores.
So I got caught up right before Thanksgiving, it literally in the bourbon hunt. And so I date a guy that is a huge bourbon drinker. And so I start talking to him as Tim said, a novice to the industry and getting educated and everything else. So I started talking to him and I said, so you're a big bourbon drinker. Are you a big bourbon drinker of like 3 or 4 bourbons? Are you like a big bourbon drinker of like 300 bourbons? I mean, all this variety. I mean, let's be real. So I decided to go on a bourbon hunt. So I happened to walk into a local establishment downtown Frankfort and looked up and I said, do you have anything special? Well, that must be the key code word. Do you have anything special? And they go, yeah, we just had our distributor bring in this E.H. Taylor. And I went,
There you go.
I said, yeah, E.H. Taylor small batch. And I literally had someone swoop in and grab one off the counter. And I looked and I went, well, I have to have one too. So I did that, and look, lo and behold,
behold,
there
man.
it is. And then,
God bless
Ask and you
Perry.
shall receive.
and then I was
What are we
like
drinking, Oz?
talking to my new bourbon friends, and I'm like, so what's hot? What should I get? They go, oh, you'd really be the bomb, Wendy, if you got some Weller. And I said,
Wendy, I love it.
I said, Weller, okay. Oh my God, there's like green and red Weller. Which Weller do I get? So I got
Both.
varying feedback on who liked what. And of course, it's all palate based, but I got varying who liked what better. So I said, the heck with it, and bought both of them. And then I'm out running about, and someone says they literally had just gotten in some Stag Junior.
Well, there you go.
And I'm like, well, obviously I have to have that too. so I got caught up from just before Thanksgiving to Christmas time, literally.
When you're supposed to be spending money.
chasing.
And,
I know. And I'm like, on the bourbon hunt. So I have to know who else has been caught up.
everyone who listens to this podcast.
raising my hand. Gosh, Wendy,
I
let me...
used to laugh. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't, Allie. I don't chase bourbon because I think there's such great bourbon out there to get that you don't have to chase it.
Well, I was
and I was
chasing.
that guy in 2013, 14, 15. You know, you'd walk up to Liquor Barn, and let's say it's October, and there's it's the Pappy release or whatever's going on that month, and it'd be like Black Friday, out the door. I mean, people lined up, in tents and whatnot, spending the night. And I'd be walking in, and I was kind of oblivious to this culture, and I'm like, well, what the hell are they doing? For about 20 years, Elijah Craig was my house bourbon. I mean, a 12-year-old stated bourbon that, when I first started buying it in the mid-90s, about $14-15 a bottle, and I think by the end, it was 28 to 30. It was a beautiful bourbon. I mean, it was synonymous with bonfires, college football, and the fall. This is what you did, around here in the fall. You went to tailgates, you drank Elijah Craig. I mean, other bourbons too, but that's what I drank.
Which basically tastes like the s'mores that you're eating with.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
It was the perfect autumn whiskey, man. It's bonfires and college football.
So I got into bourbon kind of at a weird time. I mean, I'm on the younger side. Mm-hmm. And so I really got into bourbon when the boom was in full force. So the days of Weller 12 sitting on the shelf or Pappy 15 sitting on the shelf or these brands now that everybody kind of seeks out or craves or pays top dollar for on secondary, I didn't really have the chance to super enjoy or have the chance to really understand what was so great about them at the time. Same with Elijah Craig 12. I had to hunt for a rear age stated bottle.
Okay, those were published in the last phase there in 15.
Right. Not even the Big Red 12. And once I finally found, I mean, it's sitting up on top of my shelf.
Big Red. Oh yeah.
No, not Big Red. That's rear age stated.
Okay.
That's how happy I was when I found it. Is that I was like, yeah, that's going on top shelf. But it's funny because I see what was, I see what is, and the way that I kind of fit into it is really unique. Because I don't do a whole lot of, and I don't want to get myself in trouble or anything, buying bourbon in store anymore. A lot of what I do, and I try to make sure that it's valuable or a value. It's on secondary market online.
Okay.
That's
interesting.
Now, that being said, though, I'm not spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars on, the antique collection. I've been fortunate enough, honestly, with the antique collection to have found those at retail. But I don't crave the chase, I guess, that some people do. But at the same time, I love a good day of going out and hunting bourbon. Love
I had
it.
a ball.
It's so great.
I had no idea this is what people did. And so I happened to be on the phone with a friend and who was raising some money for her church. And so she heard from her husband, her best friends with his wife and,
sure.
The couple. And she called me at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like in my fuzzy jammies in the bed and my phone's ringing and it's Mary calling me. And I'm like thinking, the house is burning. I mean, something's got, who the hell calls anybody 11 o'clock at night? Because I'm a little older than you. And so I'm not of that generation. Most of us are asleep by then. And so Mary's calling and she's like, Wendy, Eric told me that you had Weller Antique and, and she said, and the green. And she says, where did you get them? I said, well, you won't believe this. And it was in Lexington, and I happened to be over in that area. And, I did the liquor store near me on my Google, Google app.
Right.
And I happened to call. I just got lucky. And I happened to call, and the guy's like, yeah, I got both sitting right here. I go, I'll be right there. I'll be right there. So I go rushing over and get them. So I start calling around Frankfort at 11 o'clock at night. Not too many places are open, but I found one place that was open. And I said, Mary, They got it down the street from us. I can get up and go get it if you need me to. She goes, well, it's for Good Shepherd. And I said,
The Catholic Church. Oh, Lord,
the
have
guilt.
mercy.
The guilt was
Bourbon for Jesus.
I was feeling the guilt. And she goes, it's for our gala. And, you've already given so much Goodwood beer, from your events. And they've been extremely generous. And everyone loves Goodwood beer. But Wendy, this would be really nice. And I said, okay, I'm getting up. And running down to the liquor store and kind of maybe not the best part. And going in, and the guy's kind of looking at me like, what are you doing out here?
Nice.
So maybe the next event after Bourbon on the Banks is going to be Bourbon for Jesus.
Well,
Now that
Wait,
you
are you
mention
serious?
it.
June 21st.
Is this what's happening? Is this a real
wait,
thing?
So another event that my company is assisting in is a Divine Affair,
Oh, enlighten
It was
us.
a premonition.
which is going to be
Lord have mercy, man.
10 priests
The priest temple. Oh,
making
Lord. It's all Irish
various
whiskey.
foods, and each priest's dish is paired with a different bourbon from Kentucky.
Oh,
way.
way. That's
Yep.
awesome.
We're going to sell out about 350 tickets, so we don't have to do huge advertisements. But if you want to come to a really good time and support Bourbon for Jesus, absolutely, we have an event for you.
Will guilt be included?
That's extra. You can donate twice as much. All right, we're gonna point for getting back into the Heaven Hill collection.
The
here.
Bernheim.
I am
the
loving
Bernheim.
this. I had no idea that you could have all the sins together in one place. So, as I was talking about talking to a lot of people, recruiting
Yes.
great people to help, we have over 50 people on the committee. Everyone kept telling me, because, I've already talked about the fact that I'm fairly new to the industry, fairly new to Kentucky. Everyone said to me, there's this great guy who does a lot of really good things, and his name's Fred Minnick, and you need to go meet with him.
I love Fred Minnick.
That's wonderful. You know what? I appreciate the hour that Fred gave me and the additional input and advice he's given me. And I appreciated his input. But the takeaway I got from my meeting with Fred was he talked about the importance of doing a free community event, make it educational, give people the opportunity who maybe might not purchase a ticket or couldn't afford a ticket to experience Bourbon on the Banks in the community, to give back to the community. That sense of community, that celebration. So we have crafted on Friday night, Bourbon Street on Broadway.
That's cool.
We will be shutting down downtown Frankfort.
Wow.
On Bourbon Street. We're going to have couches. We're going to have bourbon barrels. We're going to have 15 to 20 food and beverage vendors. We're going to have music. We have just contracted with members of the circus out of Cincinnati that's coming down with aerial performers, fire eaters, stilt walkers, acrobatics. It is going to be Bourbon Street on Broadway.
So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think also New Orleans, but also think of somewhere like Asheville, where you walk the
Right.
streets there. And you have these street performers. You're going to have that, but you're also going to have demonstrations. We're also going to have demonstrations.
Education.
Education.
Or showcase the movie Neat, the documentary
Heck
Neat.
yes.
Yeah.
I love Neat.
But one of the things that we're going to showcase is African Americans' contributions to
Yes.
the distilling. We'll have presentations by historians,
Great.
archaeologists.
Yes.
So we're very excited about that. And musicians, small places where musicians will be, strategically located, and
It's really cool.
And partying in the street. So
Well, yeah. Yeah.
party.
But it's all ages.
Bourbon.
Friday night is
That's
all
great.
ages.
That is
Friday
great.
night is bring out the family, come celebrate this big economic ag boom that we're seeing, because bourbon is ag.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
it's-
corn.
It's ultimately an agricultural product.
And there's within a 20-mile radius of Frankfort, there are 15 distilleries. Wow. That is
I don't
huge.
think I knew that.
Yes.
Speaking of distilleries, Tim just poured for us the Bernheim wheat whiskey.
I love this.
we're still
I'm a
walking
wheat
through
drinker.
the
Well, yeah.
Heaven Hill collection.
This is something that's in my cabinet regularly.
I don't know if I have ever had this before.
Really? I mean,
I don't think I have.
it's been around for about 15 years at least, since the early 2000s. Tim. Tim, you know bourbon's better than I do.
It's a wheat whiskey.
Well, true.
It's outside of my category.
Exactly.
I pour it as a contrast for. So I don't know the history of this brand very well,
So
actually.
Bernheim is where...
I think he used to have a 7-year statement on it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. But the Bernheim distillery itself was in Louisville, I want to say.
DSP KY1.
Yep.
In
Yes,
Louisville,
and so-
Shively, right next to Brown Foreman's headquarters.
Right, so that's...
Like-
and Heaven Hill bought them.
Yeah,
And-
it was. They bought them.
Late 90s?
It was after the fire.
after the fire.
They didn't have a distillery. They were buying a bunch of brands from Diageo, if memory serves, and Diageo
United
owned.
Distillers, I think, at the time.
Was it? Yeah, and
United
owned
Distillers.
KY1, and they just kind of folded it into the deal. So that's where they've moved all their production to.
And that's how you can tell the difference between pre-fire and post-fire is the DSP number. Post-fire will say KSP 1 and KSP 31,
Right.
whereas pre-fire is just 31.
And then in that little window of time, you see like Rittenhouse DSP KY354 when they were getting Brown Foreman support, or Jim Beam support,
Wow.
where they were rolling those products out of those distilleries.
I
to
love
keep
bourbon
having
history
Yeah.
so much. It just makes me light
And it's
up.
just so
We're
cool
geeks,
that
man. I mean, we
I know
really
we
are.
are.
We're geeks, man. It's like, can you imagine if we were like obsessed about like ketchup or something like that?
smaller community.
Okay, so
Do
the
they make
ketchup, the
ketchup in
ketchup boom
Kentucky?
is next.
Yeah, no.
And we drift outside a category, which is great. I mean, pretty much it is all American whiskeys. So that's why we're drinking a wheated, full wheat whiskey, not a wheated, a full on wheat.
Yeah.
So I toured Saturday Barton's, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and out of all of their brands, 1797, etc. And by the
92.
way, no, excuse me, 1792. So they only have one heavy wheated product, and I am a wheat fan.
The 1792
sweet
sweet
wheat.
wheat,
It's
right?
the sweet wheat.
Yeah.
Yes, one wheat product. That was so. You talk about those aha moments, like not knowing that they didn't ever judge bourbon in the state of Kentucky. That was an
Right.
aha moment. Finding out they have one wheated product, and I like a wheated product.
Yeah.
The reason I
It's
love
soft. I
my
mean, it's-
vodka,
yeah.
I like a wheated vodka versus a corn vodka. But yeah, and I see Matt shaking his head. Too bad you can't see this, but I like a wheated bourbon.
Yeah,
Well,
a lot
sure.
of people do.
So why only one? Why would it still only have one?
There are fewer people with Wendy's palate than
Darn it!
other
No,
palates.
but it's because they have become popular. I mean, wheated bourbon is probably, ultimately the hottest bourbon when you think about Pappy and some of these mash bills. They're all wheated mash bills.
So I'll speak.
Weller's.
I'll speak to more of the, from what I understand, the distilling side of it. I don't know if it exactly lines up, but I would say that it probably has to do with the way that they actually. Tim, you might have to help me with this one, but don't they have to switch out something between when they're distilling bourbon whiskey and rye whiskey?
Yeah, it's a big transition. The grains don't grind the same. They don't ferment the same. They don't mash the same. I reverse my order there a little bit. But yeah, and a lot of your distilleries were not built with 4 grains in mind.
Right.
So if you look, like for example,
Right.
if you look at Woodford Reserve, behind the scenes, there's 3 hoppers, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a corn, there's a rye, there's a malted barley
Yes.
hopper. So if they're going to run wheat, they literally have to empty one hopper, and that is a logistical nightmare, which they've done before. They even ran a 4 grain at one point, but it's a lot more work for the distiller. So it adds a whole layer of inefficiency to run the specialty grain products. Whole
So-
lot easier to run a specialty finished product.
Right. So I think the answer to that question, maybe not the answer, but one of the answers is that it's just not as viable, or it just it just is a little bit more difficult to make that actually happen.
Yeah, and right now when there is a volume game at play where we can't make enough to satisfy global demand, we're at a place where Sazerac has now put everything out of Buffalo Trace on allocation. Buffalo Trace itself is now on allocation.
Hell, even the
they're
stuff
coming
that's
off,
making its
though.
way over to Fredericksburg is allocated, man.
The Buffalo Trace itself is coming off of allocation, though. I've seen it creep out more and more.
Not in every market.
Fair enough.
So to your point, absolutely, Kentucky's going to have plenty of it. We're not worried about it. Some of your control states are not getting quite the deliveries they expect. And that's why Buffalo Trace is laying down $1 billion to expand production. But
And it looks beautiful if you've ever seen it.
The growth's unbelievable. 200,000 visitors last year, 300,000 anticipated this year, 400,000 the next year. This is just the beginning of the wave. So, Perry,
Yes.
not being an expert, which I think we've made very clear, I am not an expert, not referring to my company in the room. So
I don't know if I'm an expert either.
I've read some articles. Is it a bubble? Even though I know we're certainly aficionados
bubble
and
question.
experts. And so what do you think about that bubble?
I love when it gets turned on me and I'm the interviewee and not the interviewer. It's funny because I think that 6 months ago I would have said, yes, it is a bubble. I don't know if it is so much anymore.
I don't think it's a bubble at all.
I think that it is now... A bubble is prone to popping. I mean, for lack of a better turn of phrase, it is prone to a point in time where it doesn't exist anymore.
Which has happened to bourbon over and over and over again.
It has.
This is a significant question when we're laying down the kind of money we're laying down.
The way that I see bourbon now, though, is as a community and as a lifestyle and as a sense of this is something that I can latch on to. And while some of those same aspects may be still present in bubble culture or a bubble community, I think that bourbon has reached the point where the culture side of it isn't a bubble anymore. I think that it exists in a pretty broad spectrum to where it doesn't just touch bourbon drinkers, but it touches people who are associated with bourbon culture. I mean, you don't have to be a bourbon drinker, I don't think, to know or to have a good sense of the bourbon industry.
It's the media attention is enormous
Right.
for it.
That's huge.
Nationally, globally, the idea of it as a culture is becoming more prevalent.
Right. And to that point, too, I mean, it's not like there weren't people a century ago writing about bourbon. There were, but it was in a very romantic way. It was in a poetic fashion. Mm-hmm. Now bourbon is being treated as news. It's being treated as a serious topic of conversation. So to that point, yeah, I just don't think that it's taken as lightly as it had been in the past.
Yeah.
And
with apologies to Lemony Snicket, I think asking if there's a bourbon bubble is asking the wrong question. So bourbon is tiny.
Nice.
What a good reference.
Wasn't that nice? All
It
right.
was, I like that. Yeah.
Pull that out. But we talked about Scotch earlier, right? So Scotch is the global whiskey. Bourbon is
But it's
just a
happening
drop in
everywhere,
the
Tim.
ocean.
I mean, like I was telling you all earlier, I mean, this is happening not only here in America. We're having a huge boom with bourbon and other American spirits, but it's also happening in Canada. It's also happening in
Japan.
Central America, Japan.
Yeah.
They make great whiskeys. Places you would not think normally make great whiskeys, like Japan, but also India, Australia, New Zealand.
I have friends who come over every year from Australia just for bourbon. I mean, sure, they want to see us too.
True. But I mean, I would love to
But
almost
you have bourbon.
reciprocate. I would love to go
But
to
the
like
bourbon's-
places
yeah.
like, Tasmania.
I'd like you better if you were
and
dripping
drink
in
Cradle
bourbon.
Mountain whiskey, I would love to drink some of these things, that I see, out there. I mean, the only, I had a Bakery Hill, I think it was Bakery Hill. I had a Pita whiskey. It's made in Melbourne. And their climate is really, kind of iffy. It swings, from very much like Kentucky. It swings, to hot to cold to hot very quickly. And but I was very impressed with this whiskey. It almost had a really, it had I don't want to say oldness, but it tasted something very old, but it probably wasn't. It probably was only 46, 7 years old tops.
The big spirits brands,
But it's happening everywhere.
They have so much market share.
Yeah.
When you're talking about 90% plus market share, they can lose a couple percent and you can fill that space with craft
Places,
spirits.
they are.
And they don't notice.
Or things like, going on in Taiwan with Calvin, and, things that are going on in India with, Amaret and John Paul. These things are actually filling the market with great products. Great products.
And diversified palates.
And diversified palates, absolutely. I mean, Europe, they're making great single malts in Europe. In Austria, they're making a great single malt. I hate to don't poo-poo, great distilled grapes, folks. I mean, France, man, makes some wonderful cognac and Armagnacs. They just blow your mind. Blow your mind.
I can't say I don't like cognac or Armagnac. I mean, honestly, I can't say that. I think they both have.
Aren't they wonderful?
They really are.
Yeah.
And they're so different from bourbon. I mean, it gives
And
me the
here
opportunity.
locally, I mean, the best value spirits, in my opinion. I mean, if you really want to get a bang for your buck, rum. Rum is crazy right now. I mean, really.
Again,
good.
Fred Minnick.
Well,
There you
no, but but they're making wonderful stuff in the Caribbean. They're plantation rums. Their whole portfolio is incredible.
So
I just had
tomorrow
wonderful-
morning,
Do I?
talking about rum, Brazil makes the bluegrass. I am talking to a rum and vodka distiller out of Danville, Kentucky, about their
Really?
participation in Bourbon on the Banks.
That's fantastic.
So I have been to their website. Ambev.
Yes.
And I've been to their website, and I just want to eat the pages off the website. It just looks delicious.
Well,
maybe
I mean,
we've gone from a G-rated podcaster.
You mentioned Wilderness
Trail.
Yeah, I mean, they have a great rum. That Harvest rum is fantastic, man.
Hartwick and Co. is in. Hartfield. So sorry. Sorry. I've been thinking
Well,
college.
Pittsburgh,
Hartwick is a
It's only
college.
8 ounces later.
Hartwick is a college, so I apologize. Hartfield and Co.
Yeah.
Yes, and I've had a few taste today, so I apologize. But met Andrew and told him what we were doing. He bought in, super excited.
Good.
He was our first
Oh,
craft
yes.
to
See if
say
he'll
yes.
get Kaylee Cuoco in, too.
We can ask.
But I'm tomorrow morning at 7:30. I'm talking with Zach, who's the CEO of this group, Brazil Meets the Bluegrass, and there's
fantastic.
deliation and restaurants. So we didn't even, we kind of touched on Josh Moore, who's coming with Valere
I'm so
from.
excited. I mean, that was a great meeting.
Yeah.
And he was so supportive from right from the beginning. After we pitched our idea to him, he was on board. I mean, I told Wendy when we left the meeting, I said, he's on board. And
Do
he had not
whatever he
committed
can
to
do.
anything, but I knew that he was passionate about everything we wore when it comes to farm to table. I mean, the man owns his own farm.
August 10th, he is coming to Frankfort, the downtown, for the Franklin County Farmers Market.
Yes.
And he's going to do some stuff with heirloom tomatoes. He is driving over. We're going to give him a tour of the community. We're going to introduce him to the movers and shakers in the community. We're going to welcome him.
Well, I mean, he celebrates the whole ethos of what, I mean, I'm a guy that, grew up reading Alice Waters and M.K.F. Fisher and, these great, Julia Childs. I mean, I love these people, in the culinary world. And these people were rooted in the local, environment that they.
My Mother's Day gift was Reese Witherspoon's Whiskey in a
Yeah,
Teacup.
I mean, I've seen
Good
that.
book.
I mean, I haven't, I've not perused it, but I do know about that book of hers.
Delicious.
And
Just look at the pictures.
she's done smart. She's approached it, from a local, perspective. But but what I'm so excited about Josh though is he celebrates everything we care about.
Yeah, we talked about how there's food at the festival. It's not just a beverage event. This is a foodie event.
Oh, it's
That's
a
right.
foodie
This is
event
going to
too.
be really
I mean,
high
great.
quality.
That's the other thing
Chef
that's
crafted.
gone on
Our
in the last
friend-
20 years.
Beth Carter, who founded and owns Bee's Bakery downtown Frankfort, she is going to do a bourbon cupcake with a
I
bourbon
know.
whip topping specifically for this. Beth got her start working for the Pioneer Woman. And so we've got, some great local celebrities from Josh, who won Chopped in January, to the Bee's Bakery founder and creator, Beth Carter. And a lot more food. We've got just a lot of great, as Tim said, it's going to be a foodie's delight. And so atmosphere, music, great bourbon, and yummy food. As you spend 3 hours with us on Saturday, August 24th from 5 to 8. And you know what's real important? So the bourbon industry, and Perry, you know this, is very interested in marketing to the 25 to 40-year-old market. And so...
I'm literally at the bottom of that market.
Okay, you're bragging again. And so I'm above that market. So needless to say, it was very important to us that we keep this festival affordable.
Yes.
Very important.
Think
so
about-
this is a $65 ticket price.
Yes.
And the reason it's a $65 ticket price is because even though Perry's at the bottom of the market and isn't a dink, dual income. Well, that would be no kids, but he doesn't. So I guess he is dual income, no kids. But that's back to 80s terms here. But there's a lot of folks, Perry, just a few years older than you, that do have a child or two.
Right.
And to be able to afford an evening out, we wanted it affordable. We wanted them to be able to come.
I mean, compare that to something similar. I mean, this is a 4-hour window or 3-hour?
3-hour window.
So very
3
similar
hours
to
of
something
tasting.
Something very similar that you would get if you went to something like Whiskey Live or, but a lot less.
Yeah.
I mean, something,
More value.
Oh, absolutely more value because we're highlighting Kentucky. I mean, this is all bourbon primarily. I'd say 80% of the distillers that we have so far are bourbon oriented. So it's all going to be about Kentucky.
Bourbon distillers from Kentucky, I think what
Oh,
you meant.
even-
All but 2 are bourbon distillers in Kentucky,
Yes.
just Copper and
Well,
King and
One of the distilleries I'm very excited about is the Spirits of French Lick.
and
There
our
are-
rye friends from Vermont.
Oh yes, Whistle Pig. Whistle Pig's going to be there. All you
Heck
rye
yes.
people, yes, I know, I know.
So
I know. All you fans of Boss Hogg and all you fans of the just the normal
just
tin
Dave
here.
Pickerel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a
Dave
fan of
Pickerel,
Dave
exactly. I mean, excuse
R.I.P.
me, exactly.
So let's kind of wrap this up, but I
We have
want
to
to
go
give
home.
you all. Huh?
Oh, you have to go home. I'm having such a good time.
We're gonna have an after drinking party.
I want to give you all the opportunity to make a pitch to our listeners. What is your elevator pitch to get people coming to Bourbon on the Banks? I'm gonna let everybody have that opportunity if they would like.
The Commonwealth's premier bourbon tasting, history, and judging festival that's going to celebrate all the sense of community about bourbon in our state. We're going to talk about African Americans. We're going to judge and bring about bourbon. But what's really neat and really exciting, there's something for everybody. And so Matt's throwing this. Oh my goodness. Okay, so David Mandel, the president and CEO of the Bardstown Bourbon Company,
Dave Mandel.
just said, thanks for reaching out. Want to let you know we have all the details about the event, and we're looking at it closely.
Good.
So if you're listening, that
Hey,
would
if
be,
you
we want
need
that
any
to be a
help.
yes. We want it to be a yes. So good feedback. Super
That's good
guy,
to hear.
super guy.
Yes.
And I have
It
been...
happened just right now.
That's
happened.
good.
Just came in, hot off the press. But a super exciting event, bourbononthebanks.org. And I'm going to share after Tim goes and after Matt goes, I'm going to share a secret passcode so you can get
Okay.
a discount to be able to attend.
Well, I'm excited for being able to see so many of the bourbon distilleries at once. I mean, you walk into a liquor store, it gets overwhelming, right? If you don't have somebody guiding you, you're like, what have I got? So we got 31 distilleries so far. We're going to see 10 to 20 more easy. And to be able to talk to the reps, to be able to sample the products that you haven't had before, even people who are big into bourbon, who have tasted a lot of things, I bet they're going to find something they haven't tried before. I think be able to talk to people they haven't met before. I think it's really, really exciting in the industry as it's growing as big as it's getting.
I'll piggyback off that. I'm very, very excited about all the distilleries that have decided to participate and commit to our festival. But one of the things that I like when I do, I've gone, as just someone who's gone to these types of events, I love sampling. I mean, these are a lot of whiskeys that I never get a chance to buy. These are whiskeys that I want to try and hopefully support down the road if it's something that I like. But also connecting it with our community. I mean, not only with the food, but but also, just, who we are. I mean, this is a huge cultural thing. I mean, bourbon's always been about our culture. I mean, when I was a little kid, I remember my grandparents, we would sit on the porch. I hate to be hillbilly about it, but that's how we were. I mean, we sat around, we drank whiskey,
Right.
And this will just be kind of, really nice, to taste all these different spirits in one place, in one evening. One of the great things that we didn't mention about the judging competition is the component. We're going to have this Governor's Cup. It's going to win the best bourbon in the state of Kentucky, but also we're going to have the People's Choice Award. While people are actually walking around, they're going to be able to actually say, okay, I vote for this whiskey, because all these whiskeys are also competing as well in the competition. So they'll actually be able to vote on it. So we're going to have a People's Choices Award as well, and that may be different than what the judges come up with. So I like that.
Well, I personally am sold. I can't wait for for Bourbon on
We're
the
gonna have
Banks. I
fun,
think it's
Perry.
going to be
a blast.
It really is. I cannot wait for it. Thank you all so much for being on this
Thank you
week.
for having us.
Do you want the secret passcode?
Yes, do tell the secret
It's real
passcode.
simple. Bourbon with a capital B, 19.
Okay, perfect. So again, that's bourbononthebanks.org, which is where you can find all the information about you all, correct? And where you can buy tickets as well. So capital B Bourbon 19 is the code to help you with those ticket prices. Thank you all so much. Really do appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
Perry, it's been great. You've been a great host.
Thank you for having us on.
Bourbon
Yes,
is about
thank you,
community
thank you.
and welcoming people into a part of your life. So
Everything
I'm happy
from
you guys are here.
The flying blind to finishing out with some great wheat.
I know.
And on that flavor note,
Well, if you want to follow up with the show, we are at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can send emails with questions or comments about the show to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. Please leave a 5-star rate and review on iTunes. It really does help other people find the show and get more people listening to it as well. You can head to bourbonshop.threadless.com, where you can find all of our apparel and merch. Maybe we'll do a little coinciding with Bourbon on the Banks sale going on too in late August. We'll talk about that sometime here in the future. But the big one, though, of course, is patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can become a patron of the show. It really, really does help us out with continuing with the show every single month. Of course, though, there is no pressure, but we always appreciate that kind of support. Bourbon on the Banks again, August 23rd, 24th in Frankfort, Kentucky. So excited for this festival. It's going to be a great time. Thank you all again so much for being on this week. I will see you next week. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast.